Option is getting ready to start. Recording is there, and we're ready to go. So good evening, everyone. In tonight's session, we are going to look at a couple of things. We're going to start off with. We're going to focus on key aspects of Learning Unit 3. So I'm going to just touch on the two major ones, the ones that's relevant to our assignment, which would be pragmatism and critical theory. We will then just quickly look at when is our next online session, and then there will be a short discussion of assignment 2. The purpose is not for me to discuss the details behind it. You all have the video. I think you've got the video link. If you don't, just go and find it on YouTube. You'll be able to look at it. And then we will discuss at a later stage when we'll have the Q&A thing. Please don't ask me about the marks as yet. I am still in the process of marking. How does it look? It looks quite good. The people that paid attention to what it is that you need to write in each essay did well. Those that ignored it and did their own thing are not doing so well because they're not providing everything that the rubric is requiring. I have also seen that there are still quite a few students that are not referencing correctly. So I will definitely make an effort of probably before assignment 2 hand in, have another one session in which we just do in which we do referencing again. Hi Sue, I see you're in the session. I know you asked for 5 minutes. Do you want to do it now? Should I stop sharing so that you can do your bit?
Yes, please, Yolanda, because I know everyone want to get going, especially if Janine is at 1 a.m. Hi, everyone. I'm just here for a quick visit in terms with reference with the infographic that was shared by Yolanda, and you guys might have been in other classes and sessions where this was also shared. So it's just a reminder in terms with students directing queries to VC Assist and to the right department so that there's no further delay in resolving any query that you might have. Also, if you need to make a booking with your head of education, with Inez de Almeida, if you need to discuss anything academic-wise, there's also the link for request a booking, and you can indicate that you would like to schedule with either her or your academic lead, Annie Kirsten. Also, just a reminder, the information specialists are there available for any student in terms with formatting and writing assessments and assignments. So please do make use of them. Very amazing team, willing to support you, especially in your research as well. I see I did skip something, and this is probably the most important element. It is the TE online engagement requirements, which is, of course, a combination of both your live sessions that you join with your lecturer and ARC engagement. I have started to pull engagement reports, and I have to say it is extremely positive. So great job to students doing it, and I'll start emailing students. Just a reminder to see where they are. Of course, if you are already on track and you're more or less at around 6 hours, you will not be getting an email. So it's just to get everyone over the finish line in terms with online engagement. The other thing is, please do take care of yourself. There's also student wellness. If you do not have anything related with academic, but you do need some additional support, there is a great team waiting to assist you there as well. Yolanda, of course, will do her recordings and make all these materials available to you. So please just remember the YouTube playlist in which you can go subscribe and also follow. And that was available at ARC. We might have some students that were registered a bit later. So there are also catch-up sessions. So with late registration videos, we've got it on the infographic as that, but that's catch-up sessions, videos for various modules. And that is it. And Yolanda, please, thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone hearing me out this evening.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us for a short while.
Perfect. I'll see everyone. Bye-bye all.
Take care. Bye. Okay, everyone, I'm just waiting for the slides to load again. It takes a bit of time. So we were sitting at, this is what we were going to discuss tonight. So let's start straight off with Learning Unit 3. Jan, I see you've got your hand raised. Please go ahead and talk.
Yes, I would like to just make sure first. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. I'd like to speak a bit about the topics that we had to write about in assignment 1, and I don't want to waste your time, so maybe we can do this at the end of the class if there's time or something. But is it possible for us to do some reflection on the assignment?
Yes, that would be lovely. So let's see how far we can get through tonight's stuff. I don't foresee us taking the whole hour. And then when there's time at the end, I would love to have a discussion on it. Just how did you find it? Did you learn from it? And so forth. I personally enjoy assignment 2 more. It's more my type of teaching. So I find it to be more beneficial for students to do. Assignment 1 is sort of just getting into the idea of what is philosophy and so forth. But yes, let's get through tonight's stuff. And then at the end of the session, hopefully there will be quite a lot of time. If there's a need, I can also, like we do the Q&A sessions outside our normal time slot. I'm happy to check when we all have got a gap, and then I could just have, I'll call it a chit-chat session in which we could just get together. I mean, last time we spoke about why are we only focusing on Western philosophy, not Eastern philosophy? So I feel that is a discussion I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on it. I feel that could be really beneficial for us to go through that. Anim, is the summative assignment out yet? No, it's not out yet, and we also don't have the due date. From my understanding, by about mid-April, we will have our summative assessments. For those of you that's doing modules with the POE, those will also be released around about the 10th to the 15th of April. Let's get started off with pragmatism. So what exactly is pragmatism? Yes, Janil, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Please go ahead and talk.
Hi, Joe, it's Janil. The summative assignment is actually out. I just had a look at it right now.
Okay, so the summative is out already, but the due date is not there yet. So thank you for
correct.
that.
No problem.
Okay, so students, I can just, I do understand you all have got your own issues in your life that you've got to go on through. But when I started doing the marking, I was concerned that some students had already submitted assignment 1 way before we actually had a full-on discussion of what was required. Now, you guys all know that I teach the same module in like 4 or 5 different spaces, or to at least 4 or 5 different class settings and groups of people. And in my 1 4th year class, the question was asked, why am I so very specific as to what they need to do? Because they lost marks for not using subheadings. Their marking is done already because theirs was due about a week ago. And I had to explain to them, when I give you guys a breakdown of what to cover in your assignment, it's not me trying to be bossy. What I basically do, because I work with development, because I develop quite a few things for the IIE, I also understand how the rubric and the assignment need to connect with each other. So when I create for you like a little template of what it is you need to do, I base it on those 2 aspects together, the rubric plus the actual question. Because when I mark it, I have to mark according to the rubric. So if the rubric is requiring a certain aspect to be addressed and you do not address it, then obviously you slide down the scale on that rubric. And that's the purpose behind it. So it's not me trying to say you've got to do things my way. And that goes with the people that handed in the assignment way before we actually discussed it. I'm not saying you're not able to do it, but a lot of the things, the ones that I've marked already, they did not do the layout correctly. They did not do the headings the way they were supposed to do. They did not address all the points that you needed to address, provide examples in certain places, and that makes it problematic. But be it as it may, let's now not talk further about any of the other assignments. Let's focus on today's lesson so that, as Jan has asked, when we are finished, we can actually have a time to have our normal chat about all the things that you guys want to talk about. So what exactly then is pragmatism? What are the underpinnings? The big thing about pragmatism is that nothing is permanent. If there's one thing you can be sure of, is that there will be change. Nothing will stay the same. They very much push for experiential and interactive learning. With other words, those of you that's already done teacher-centered, learner-centered, I don't know if you guys have done that section in SFTL already, but they definitely, pragmatism is way more for the hands-on learning. So very in line with what realism is all about. It wants us to explain what it is that our senses are picking up. Whatever it might be, it wants an explanation of that. Things change because of the experiences that you have. If you just stop and think, you are all busy doing a postgraduate qualification at this stage. If you think back, for some of you, this is your first semester in a postgrad setting. Think back on what was your first semester as an undergrad student in your first year of studying. What was that like? We have changed. We approach things very differently. Things happen in our world. Let's take something such as COVID that really made us stop and relook at our lives. To me, one of the biggest lessons was I'm very set on lists and time schedules and things like that. And it's the one thing that COVID taught me is that nothing will stay the same. I can plan to teach the students this and this and this, and then load shedding comes in and a whole lot of other stuff, and I needed to change. So that is then part of what they say over there. So we go to the third bullet, this one over here, or the fourth one, should I rather say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth one. Truth is relative because they believe that the world is changing. So everything that we see around us will change. Ultimately, they are all about growth. The fact that things will change. As we grow, the world around us grows as well. So I don't cover all of pragmatism. I'm just touching on some of the key points. I'm not going to read all of this. You guys are capable of reading. The role of the student is basically to take ownership of their learning. They can't just sit back and wait for the teacher to do everything. The kid actually has to jump in and do their part. You as a teacher can only do so much. You cannot do any more than that. So children should set their own objectives, their own goals. And this is just a practice that I did when I was still teaching at a high school. You don't do it in the first term because they don't have a base at that stage yet. But what I definitely do at the start of semester, of term 2, I will call each child in my class forward and we will look at the mark. Let's say you got 46%. So then I'm going to say, okay, what is a realistic goal for you for this term? So sometimes they want to go from 46 to 66. And I'm like, no, guys, this is unrealistic. So this is where you now have to do your guidance aspect as a teacher. But you help them to set goals for themselves. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to get right? I know I've got a few maths and science and the clever people here. I can remember when I was at school, I was okay with algebra and I was fairly good with geometry, but I had no flipping clue what was going on with trig. So I had to get to a point where I had to say, okay, make peace with the fact that that is a section you're going to struggle with and focus on the ones that you can do. That's very much what pragmatism is actually saying. So the learners must be measured by their own standards. With other words, did you improve from your previous test? So many people are stuck on the concept of class average. As long as you are above the class average, you're happy. And that's not what it should be. You should set a standard for yourself based on pragmatism. So according to pragmatism, the role of the teacher then is that I am a facilitator, very much what I am like in the online space. I don't teach you guys all the theory. I'm today just touching on some of the main points. You cannot just go on the little bit that you get from me every second week for an hour. There's no way I can cover all of it. Think of it like this. With my B.Ed students, I spent 36 hours teaching them the content. So I spend, I think, a total of maybe 8 hours with you. So there's a lot of self-study that's going to come into it. It expects that we have got a social order and a growth that would take place. The child has to grow from what they started. If I think of a language situation, the way they write their essays in term 1 versus term 4. If you've got it, the school where I was at, we would take 8 and 9, you would take through, and then 10, 11. If a kid starts with me in grade 10, I'll take them through all the way to grade 12. Can you see the growth that's taken place? Teachers should be there to encourage, to offer suggestions. And I think that's what got a lot of us frustrated on the WhatsApp group, is that instead of me just being there to encourage you, I was sort of like nearly being begged to take on a full-on teaching role within the WhatsApp group. And that's not what it was all about. So I have chosen not to close our WhatsApp group, to keep it going, because I feel it's good for you guys to have like just a helpline, to have someone out there. I mean, I saw now the other day, a lot of you asked about, I don't know, your teaching experience stuff. It's good to have that. But basically, that last line, the function of education is to prepare for life. So I'm hoping that by me being a caring lecturer, it encourages you guys to be a caring teacher when you get to that point. So what are typically the methods of instruction that we use in pragmatism? Everything will be practical by nature, solving problems. So problem solving, experiential learning, inquiry methods, field trips, projects, all those things will actually be what is the focus. Look at the second point here. Rote memorization is replaced with individualized studies. We don't want you to learn things off by heart. We want you to actually understand what it is. If I think of your geometry proofs that you have to study, yes, I could eventually just write them out, but what saved me is I could actually understand what they were saying. And that's what this is saying. Move away from just telling kids to do something because they've got to do it. Help them to understand it so that it becomes personal for them, and then they will learn better. So it's definitely an action-orientated way. So I want to share with you, if you've watched the video of last year's assignment 2 discussion, you will hear that I carry on quite a lot about Dead Poets Society. So I want to share a video with you guys, and hopefully that will give you a better understanding of it. So I will share these slides with you after the session, but there is the link. So I am going to stop sharing the slides with you now. Well, I'm not going to stop sharing the slides. I'm going to share the whole screen with you so we can watch the video. I'm not turning my sound off, so hopefully you will have good sound. But the purpose behind all of this is I want to show you online where you can find some information on YouTube relevant to this movie, and then hopefully you'll get a better understanding as to why this is such an important movie. Maybe some of you did do this as a film study. It was like in 1989, 1990, there around that the film came out. And maybe some of you have covered it as a film study at school. And when you look at this, you'll understand why it is such one of those movies that just simply hit home. Okay, so the screen will now be shared. Let's quickly go through before I go into the movie. Here is on YouTube. There's actually, it's done by students, but it's a lovely story on how pragmatism and behaviorism takes, how we find that in Dead Poets Society, the movie. So it's part of their philosophy of education. And I absolutely loved the study, and I can't play it for you because it's like nearly 16 minutes long, but I could really recommend that you go and look for this and listen to it. It will really help you to understand the concept of pragmatism a lot more hands-on. Then there is also a video, it's also very long. It's a 14.5-minute one on what makes Dead Poets, what makes the teacher, Mr. Keating, what makes him such a good teacher. So again, I'm not going to actually play this for you. It's too long. I will be playing the next one, but it will really help you to understand this whole concept of what pragmatism is all about. I hope the sound is good. It is a short, it's less than 2 minutes, but what I want you to do as the movie play, forget that you are a postgrad, whatever. Imagine you are in his class and see how you feel it. Maybe you were fortunate enough to have had a teacher that was as passionate, and then you are very blessed. Not many people have that, but I would really hope that some of you end up being a teacher like this. Let's see what it's all about.
Words and language. No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world. Now, see that look in Mr. Pitt's eye? Like 19th century literature has nothing to do with going to business school or medical school, right? Maybe. Mr. Hopkins, you may agree with them, thinking, yes, we should simply study our Mr. Pritchard and learn our rhyme and meter and go quietly about the business of achieving other ambitions. A little secret for you. Huddle up. Huddle up! We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. The quote from Whitman, "O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life?" Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
Okay, so I hope you caught the meaning behind the story, why I wanted to play this, because this is very much what he is doing. He is using pragmatism. He wants them, instead of just reading poetry, he wants them to live it, to experience it, to understand the importance of it. And that's what makes it. It is really, if you haven't watched the movie, it is a fantastic movie to watch. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Yeah, I actually want to cry when I see that. To me, it's like one of the sad things. So let's go and check what this is all about. On the slide after this one, I've actually shared with you guys a document that I said this is worth reading. So it's called What Dead Poets Society Taught Me About Being a Teacher. And it's a worthwhile read. So if you want to understand pragmatism better, that's the way to go. Let's move on to Learning Unit 3, Theme 3, in which we do continental theories. I am only going to focus on critical theory. So we do phenomenology, hermeneutics, critical theory, and postmodernism. You have to read and work through the others, but the assignment focuses specifically on critical theory, and that is why I am also going to really focus mostly on that. So what exactly is critical theory? we all know what it means to be critical. So critical theory is teaching people to think for themselves, to have critical thinking, to stop and say, don't just believe whatever people are telling you. Question the things around you. Make sense of it of yourself. So as you can see on the third one there by the picture with the brain, critical theory wants to make people conscious of what is being done so that they will emancipate themselves and others. And we are currently in the world living in history in such an interesting time, in that if we just think of this whole thing that's happened with Zelensky and Trump and how that has impacted the world, that even the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is getting involved and choosing sides. And it's merely because of that one act that's happened. So if we go and do critical theory, it's basically saying to us, how do I know something is true? Why do I believe what it is that I believe? Am I questioning something? So often I get the response from students when we cover this, it makes it very, very difficult for us to cover this concept in a classroom, because in some cases we do not want children to question us. I would imagine if you're doing like a science experiment where a chemistry that you do two things, students might question it, but it is what it is. That's not what this is saying. Don't trust that 1 + 1 is 2. What this is saying is, why is 1 + 1 2? If I can understand that, I can understand life better. And that is basically where we are moving to in a world. So it's now, you guys have to write about critical pedagogy in your assignment too. So what exactly is critical? Pedagogy is how I teach. Critical pedagogy is how I teach critically. So that's what it is. So where we actually stop and say, am I accepting the status quo where people are being suppressed, or am I actually helping my learners to take note of that? Guys, you cannot do this in every single lesson of your life. You will go crazy because you'll end up just having debates and not cover material or theory that you need to do. This is just basically explaining to you what critical pedagogy then all entails. So Paulo Freire he's like the father of this stuff. So he comes from South America. And if we go look at the living conditions and the political climate, it's very similar to South Africa. So a lot of it can actually be used. So according to him, I'm not reading the whole slide, the purpose of education is to achieve critical awareness. So what I would normally do in a face-to-face class, I would say to them, when we do icebreakers in the beginning of the semester, one of the questions I ask them, would you want to always know what people are thinking at all times, or would you rather prefer just to know when people are lying to you? Now, remember, I do this with first, second, third, and fourth years, so they're quite a lot younger than you. And then it's interesting for me always how the majority of them would say to you they would rather just know when people are lying to them. And then I stop and I make a few statements and I say to them, which one of these statements were not true? And then they could identify. So I said, we have an inherent feeling of when something is not true, when people are lying to us. We know it. And that is when we create critical awareness. Are you being aware of how these elements in your subject, again, you cannot do it in every single topic that you discuss, but ultimately, are we moving towards that? So he basically felt that, Paulo Freire felt that we should have a dialogue-based discussion, very much what Jan suggested. If we can finish early, can we please have just a chat about what assignment 1 was actually all about? So very much there already critical thinking going on. We should have a vision that children should be able to be equipped with the ability to change their lives. I mean, if we think of, I know some of you are not in South Africa, but if you think of South Africa, where we've got such a high unemployment rate, let's teach our children they don't have to be caught in poverty. They don't have to accept that that's their fate in life. They can actually change it. And to me, a big, big one is this one over here. It replaces the authoritarian teacher where there is actually now mutual respect, that I respect my students and therefore they respect me as well. And that then just covers basically what critical theory is all about. I want to just quickly touch on our next session. So that will take place on the 10th of April. And that session will be purely feedback on assignment 1. I'm not going to cover theory with you guys or anything like that. I'm simply going to give you feedback on assignment 1. So Jan, if we don't get around to having our chat about it in today's session, we will definitely be able to do it in that session. And I would foresee us being able to talk about quite a few other things as well in that session, which would be quite nice. Okay, so we're done with the theory. We're now going to move on to assignment 2. So I've said to you guys here, let me just take this laser off, or it doesn't want to go off, pointer. Please go to this video recording. It's a discussion on assignment 2. So you just click on that. I will share with you guys the slides in our WhatsApp group afterwards. And on Wednesday, April, what's the date? So that's disappeared. And I don't think it's a Wednesday. I think I had to change it. I will clarify the date, but it is at 19:30. If I can remember correctly, we actually made it on a Thursday. To my understanding, 3 April. Let's just check the calendar. Yes, you are. It's not 3 April. It's actually 2 April, Wednesday, 2 April. Varsity College FOED assignment 2, question and answer. But I can remember someone saying that there was a problem. I don't know if you guys are free and that I had to move it to the Thursday instead of the Wednesday. I'll clarify that and then we can discuss it in a little bit more detail. But it is important for you to watch the movie, with other words, this weekend sometime, because either Wednesday or on Thursday next week, we are going to have that chat. Okay, for the life of me, I don't have your timetable with me, so I can't remember why, but I know someone alerted me that I needed to move the date. So I don't know if it was the 2nd and it needed to move to the 3rd. I'll chat to you guys on the WhatsApp group now. So why do you need to watch the video? Because it's going to help you to understand what is required. I'm now going to simply, these are elements, you'll recognize some of them if you've watched the slides, this or watched the video. This is just touching on the key aspects of the assignment. I'm not doing it in detail. The detail is in the actual video recording. So what you're going to do with question 1 is you are going to create a lesson plan. You're not going to use the lesson plan template that you guys need to use for lesson planning, because we only have certain elements of our lesson plan that we are going to focus on. So we're going to start off with the grade and subject. You're going to pick a grade, and you're going to have to explain to me why do you feel that grade is a suitable grade to use pragmatism in the class. Try to give me about 2 facts. Then you're going to stipulate for me which subject it is that you are choosing. And again, give me 3 facts of why you feel that subject is suitable to pragmatism. So just a tip, it's in the video as well. Guys, when it comes to referencing in this specific question, every single time you are explaining why what you are planning to do relates to pragmatism, you have to reference it. Because you're going to say to me, grade 10 is the ideal one because the children are starting with abstract thinking, which aligns with pragmatism. The minute you mention that word somewhere in that sentence, you're going to have to give me a reference. Because how do you know that critical thinking or whatever forms part of pragmatism? When you talk about your subject choice, so let's say I'm going to use English and I'm going to specifically focus on literature, or I'm going to have a classroom debate, which is pragmatic by nature. When you tell me why it is pragmatic, you have to reference it, because how do you know that that is relevant to pragmatism? So there we've got that bit. Next, you have to give me 3 objectives. The instructions are not very clear. It looks like you can have 2 or more. Guys, 3 is the jackpot. If you give me less than that, you kind of like not going to get the marks. And if you give me more than that, it's too much writing. So choose 3 objectives. Each objective is, you don't take it word for word from CAPS, but it is based on CAPS. So somewhere along the line in that thing, you will be able to, in your CAPS document for your subject, you will find a point that you want to teach. Okay, so 1 mark for the CAPS, 1 mark for linking it to pragmatism, and 1 mark for the integration between the 2 ideas, the objective as well as pragmatism. So that's what that goes about. So, and then there's 1 overall mark for logic. We don't literally break it down, but I just find students, especially those of you that are very precise in your thinking, this really helped students a lot to see what's going on there. So we start off with the grade and the subject. You then give me 3 objectives. After that, you then discuss 2 teaching strategies for me. So it's worth 15 marks. As you can see, I've explained to you how the breakdown could work. I've given you a picture of what pragmatism will look like in education, just so that you can get a feel for it. So your description of your activity, of your strategy, can come from your Killian textbook. You are also welcome to use any other strategy that you like to use. If I think of something such as gamification, could also be a strategy of pragmatism. Can you say in your own opinion? You can, but the minute you link it to pragmatism, it's no longer your opinion because it's factual. That's just how it is in philosophy. Then lastly, you're going to have 1 activity that you're going to create for me. So you are going to describe whatever this activity is that you guys are going to want to do. And then you're going to give me a justification of why you feel it links up with pragmatism. And students, very important, it must integrate with your objectives. So I don't teach, I might teach some of you teaching experience. I normally do teach it in 2nd semester. So what happens is in a lesson plan, you create objectives. What are those? Those are the aims. That is what you are hoping to teach the kids in that time that you've got with them. Now, how do I measure whether I've achieved my objectives? By looking at how well they do the activity. So that is why your activity has to go back to your objectives. So let's say in language, your objective for a literature essay, which was, or literature discussion, is on identifying the key elements of sadness or whatever the case might be. And your activity does not address that. Then your activity did not integrate your objectives. So it's a little bit of a backwards one, but what I always find, especially when you guys are getting ready to do your teaching experience for your supervisor, find an activity that you really like, that you know this is going to be, the kids are going to like it, they're going to be able to learn from it, and then work back. Based on that activity, what are objectives, still based on CAPS, that we could use to align with the activity? It looks like it's a little bit backwards, but it really does work very well if you do that. Pick your activity, decide what it is that you want the learners to study during that time. From that, you can then go and create your objectives as well as the strategies that you are going to use. So in a nutshell, then, that is a summary of what it is that you need to do. I'm not going to repeat through that again. Then we move on to question 2. It's very, very important. Are there any tools to use in creating lesson plans? No, you simply just stick to what the instructions are that's there. You guys don't have to use anything else. Please do not use the template. We're not using it now. You guys are just going to use the headings as are in the instructions. So question 2, you need to understand what is a research essay and what is a critical discussion. I'm not going to cover it with you here. The video recording explains it in quite a lot of detail. So you're going to first have to define for me what is critical pedagogy. So give me a clear definition of what it is. Tell me what are some of the challenges that we experience with it. How is it different from traditional teaching approaches? That's the first thing that you need to do. Secondly, you now need to discuss what are some of the key principles of critical pedagogy. They are in most sources that you're going to look at, they typically bring out three main ones. You cannot discuss all three. It's going to take you over the word count. My suggestion is choose two. You can't just choose one because the plural form principles are there. So you need to choose two. If you don't write a lot about it, you would probably be able to do three, but then you're not doing critical thinking. You are then reporting what a specific source has provided. The main discussion of your essay is then this, where you have got to pick your articles, read through them, try to create themes that or certain concepts that are all the way through. Look then at how will transformation and everything else take place. I don't want to take too much time. This is really explained well in the video. So this is a suggested layout of question 2. Question 1, I basically told you guys, there we go. This is basic the layout. I've numbered it for you as well. So this would be the layout of your question 1, and this would be the layout of your question 2. So I don't want to go through much more than that. I'm going to actually stop sharing the slides now. And luckily we've got just on about 10 plus minutes, about 15 minutes that we now can chat. So now we can talk. Jan, did you have something specific you want to raise about assignment 1?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the information and the opportunity. Yes, I do have something, and I'm doing it a little bit reluctantly because I might have missed something. Now, I've studied before philosophy, and I've read a lot about philosophy now. So I'm not an expert on philosophy of education, but I felt the question about realism and idealism is very much in the field of philosophy, and to my experience, it's not really a debate going on. People spoke about it like in the early 1900s and then a little bit in the mid 1900s, but it's the whole debate about idealism and realism is embedded into other philosophies, like in postmodernism or modernism, even now in metamodernism, which is a reaction to postmodernism. So I'm not sure if I'm treading on the wrong right direction, but I know that you don't set up the whole assignment thing, so I don't know who created it, but I wouldn't say that it's really such a big deal. And the problem with that is it was for me very difficult to reference articles actually talking about this debate because it's not really a debate. Although the two concepts is very old, and the concepts you will find in many discussions, but not necessarily together. So that's kind of how I felt about the question. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I see Sinead's got her hand up. I'll get you to talk now. I just want to do a little bit of feedback on what Jan was saying now. So what you need to remember is this was assignment 1. So it's the very first introduction to the whole thing of philosophy. Now, there are quite a few other students in our group that have studied philosophy quite extensively. A couple of years ago, I actually had a person that had a PhD in philosophy in my group, and now I have to teach a philosophy, so it was always interesting to see. But the big idea here is Idealism and realism form the basis of so many other philosophies that follow from here on. So if you want to go to a basic introduction of what philosophy is, then you would normally start with idealism and realism within the Western world. And that is why that question was asked. Yes, I do agree it moves very much. But if you go look at what is it that, yes, we spoke a little bit about the key tenets, but it was all to do with education. How will education look like in idealism, and what is it going to look like in realism? That was kind of like what they were trying to set out. And what I have found, and I mean, I've been teaching this in the online space a couple of years now. For the first time this year, I could clearly see in my face-to-face class, because I'm trying to get a lot more case studies going with them to make them think of the theory, and they needed to come up with lesson ideas. And they now understand why this module is called Foundations of Education. It's not a philosophy module. It's actually laying down the foundation of teaching. And what we are trying to do by exposing you to all these different philosophies and how they see teaching is to get you to realize that not all people see teaching in the same way. Whether we're successful, I've got my doubts at times. I also feel that, I mean, you guys are now the third group to do the same. Now, you must remember, I also teach at another campus that is out of sync. So next semester, I've got to do this stuff again. I'm kind of like tired of these same essays as well. And I would love to do a little bit more interaction. If you go look at that YouTube video that I want you guys to look at, how pragmatism looks like in Dead Poets Society, that would be more the type of assignment I would like to set for you guys, because I feel it's literally a hands-on one. But then comes the problem. Not all people are tech savvy. Not all people can do things. Not people have a background in philosophy. There are going to be, I don't want them to raise or to wave their hands or whatever, but there are going to be many students in our group that this is the first time ever they've dealt with anything in this of this nature. So for their sake, we need to take it easy. You guys will see next semester, some of you might have done it already, if this is not your first semester, you do a module PRET, which is professional ethics. Now in there, you cover 10 other philosophies. And when you do that, it actually makes a lot more sense, and hopefully you will benefit from that. So I know it's not an answer to your question, but at least I have explained to you from my side how I see it. So to me, assignment 1 is purely an introduction to research. And as such, we've got to focus on idealism and realism, because that's where everything else started. Sinead, please feel free to use your mic and talk.
So I also just want to go back to Jan's question and just add a little bit more there. Even though it might not be as much of a debate as maybe the other philosophies are in education, I've noticed that even philosophers like, or modern day philosophers like Jordan Peterson and Zizek and all of those theorists are actually using things like idealism and realism, and it can actually be very helpful in a classroom situation. So I think that's also why it was kind of maybe a little bit easier to find those theories being used.
Yes, I hear what you say. It's to me, I know this is not what it's about, but as a music teacher, I feel there are certain classical pieces that everybody in the world should be able to recognize within the first few beats. They should know what the Four Seasons sounds like, and a few of the other, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, Ninth Symphony. They should know that, but we know that's not the case. So I like what you were saying, Sinead, saying that, yes, someone like Jordan Peterson, I enjoy his work. I don't always agree with everything that he states, but he's got such vast different opinions on many different things. I don't think you can get one person that's going to agree with everything that he says. And yet, if we go look at it, he builds it on idealism and realism. Many of the thoughts start there. And I think that is kind of where we wanted to just get that, In Afrikaans noem ons dit die wegspringplek. That's the starting point of all philosophy. So if you can at least have a basic understanding of that, then if ever someone else talks about philosophy, you're not totally lost. Jan, your hand is up again.
Yes, I'll be short. I just want to react at least, and thank you for your explanation. I have full understanding of that. Maybe I misunderstood it a bit. I understood the question like there is actually debates in philosophy going on, and you have people standing for realism and some standing for idealism. But as you will see, I mean, Jordan Peterson is a good example, although he's not a philosopher, but everybody has some form of realism and some form of idealism in the way they approach reality. Today, I mean, I haven't encountered any living philosopher today that would either stand for realism or for idealism. They will incorporate the concept. So maybe that's where I misunderstood. I just experienced the question as, you know, let's look at some idealists and some realists, and that's very difficult to really find.
Yeah, so the assignment cycle that was before this, so before they changed it to your current assignment, and I hope I'm not confusing it now with your summative, you go to a party and you hear someone talk about that it is useless to study philosophy. What is your response to that person? And I liked that question because it really sort of got students to think of why are we doing the things that we're doing. Look, for some of you, this is not a fun module. This is something that is a nightmare because you struggle to, and it's probably how I felt in my math class. Like I knew I had to do this. I didn't enjoy it. And it's like this negative cycle that just keeps on going. But I do enjoy the fact that we have got people that are keen to talk about it. So I'm always open for things like that. I think what would be a good one if Jess, our admin person, could maybe just remind us on the group. So whichever day it is, whether it's now the 2nd or the 3rd, I'll have to go and clarify it. On my calendar, I have definitely booked it, and that's where the link would be gained from as Wednesday the 2nd. So that's the date I have for whatever reason. I think it's because you guys have got something due on the 3rd, which is why I didn't want to do it there. So if we can just please, if you want to have further discussions and chats, that would be a good one. Put it in the WhatsApp group so that we can just know kind of like this. I don't want to say create an agenda because I don't want to be rigid in our thinking. But if we can just basically get some ideas of things that we can talk about, then those of us that's not as knowledgeable about it will have a kind of time, a little bit of time to maybe go read up about it so that when we talk about it, they are familiar with what's going on. It's just a suggestion, and I feel that way we can actually chat about it. But one of the things that I'm definitely going to raise with Inez and the powers that be is that I feel that although I cover theory with you, I think this specific module would benefit a lot from us having purely discussion sessions. I could still work them in that they're not necessarily part of the scheduled lessons that where I just basically, like I said to you guys, let's call it our chit chat session where we can just all talk a little bit about and see how it all works out. I see Candace has said, I think the debate in education is about humanities, idealism versus science, the realism. At universities, they cut funding for you. Yes, that is typically what is happening. But I don't think that is the main debate. Because remember, this is all based on getting you guys ready to be future teachers, to be teachers in the classroom. So yes, there is that divide, and that is one that is worth investigating as well. Now you must remember, I'm a language and a humanities person, and I'm married to a doctor, which is definitely a science type of person. So we often have that discussion, which is quite interesting just to experience that. But there are some other interesting debates and topics. And I feel if those of you that enjoy having, let's have one or two of those discussions. It's not going to be a compulsory one. If I get asked to record it, I'm happy to record it for you guys. But the purpose is more for us to just have a chat about things that you find interesting. So on that note, I lecture curriculum studies within the Mancosa platform. And it was so interesting. I was talking about how curriculum has changed and how it works in the different phases. And one of the students in my PGCE group is actually a lecturer at UNISA, and he actually posted in the chat 4 of his peer-reviewed articles that you will find on Google Scholar on curriculum development within maths. And eventually I just said to him, okay, whoa, please talk about it. And it was such an interesting and a nice thing to listen to him just explaining. I think his last study was to do with how teaching maths in our rural or our under-resourced areas, how that negatively affects the teaching of maths. And that is very much a critical thinking thing that they did. So I really felt that that is quite an interesting one to do. So please, guys, think about it. So on the 10th, let's do it on the 10th of April, where I am going to discuss the assignment feedback with you. That's going to take me, I don't imagine it's going to take me more than 20 or 30 minutes. So we will definitely have some time there to chat, and I'm also happy to squeeze it in at any other time. But just to confirm, I definitely have our discussion session for our Q&A for assignment 2 as next week, Wednesday, the 2nd of April at 19:30. So, and that link has already been sent to, I know it's been sent to Annie, who normally attends my lessons, as well as I think Monique, the other lecturer, she also attends our lessons. So it's quite important that we don't deviate from that. But please, yes, that's Alicia has just now said as well, assignment is due on the 3rd. I think that's why I changed it to the 2nd specifically for that purpose. I just see Alyssa's name now, and you also saw yesterday. So I was at Sting's concert last night, and as I walked into the arena where as a student comes and grabs me, and it was one of my varsity college students that I did supervision for here in Cape Town. And luckily, as she grabbed me and I turned around to talk to her, she said to me, Alyssa, and then she started talking. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known who she is. So just seeing your name just reminded me of that. Okay, everyone, our session is just about finished. Please think of some interesting questions if we see that there's quite a lot of things that we would like to discuss. So Jess, if you could maybe by the 9th, just remind everybody if they've got certain topics they want to post, maybe they can share it with you, and then you can create, instead of just sharing it on the group and then everybody, because I've also learned that students are lazy, me included, we don't go and read what was said further up. So maybe if we send our suggestions of topics to Jess specifically, not for her to check whether they're right or wrong, just for her to create a list, so that when we have that list, if there's overlapping, she can obviously just put it down, and then she can maybe share it on the 10th. These are the topics, and everybody can then get ready for that. And that's it from me tonight. If we've got no further questions, I think I can stop my recording. And I will try to have the recordings on the system for